Hello and good afternoon from Sedona, Arizona. I am your host of the Pivot Cast, Sarah the Pivoter. Thank you for being patient with us today. We're a few minutes behind schedule due to some technical difficulties, but hey, there are vortexes in Sedona, so wouldn't be an IG live or a StreamYard live if it wasn't for some technical difficulties. The IT gremlins love me. Let's get started. I'm your host, Sarah the Pivoter, and here on the Pivot Cast, I interview super rad humans from around the world doing rad things in all walks of life. This is a platform to share their voice, their story, and bring more value to you. In this live interview, we're going to hear some super rad ideas from Cathy Perez, a holistic coach helping women create healthy relationships with anxiety and stress. She's going to give us the DL on some simple steps for healthy habits through organizing our lives so that we can walk harmoniously through whatever life throws at us. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty rad to me. Cathy has always had a passion for health and fitness, being organized, and sharing her curiosity for life with anyone who would listen. After many years in the corporate arena, supporting others with administrative and HR function, Cathy got the nerve and calling to finally become a health coach. So she's my kind of gal. In this interview, we're going to be taking organization to a higher level and outline mental, physical, and spiritual reasons to get organized for life. Creating focus and productivity is required for success. Knowing me, you guys know I talk about this all the time. So we're going to hone in on your personal and work environments to help you get to this state more easily. She's also going to be covering how organizing can help bring clarity, especially for those who are looking to make a big pivot, such as a career change. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Cathy on screen. Hi, Cathy. How are you?
Hello, I'm well. How are you?
Doing very well. Welcome. We're both in Arizona, but we're just in different cities.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for doing this live with me today, Cathy.
I apologize for the technical difficulties. That was on my end.
No, don't
Yeah,
even worry.
so ready to go and can be as brief as possible.
No. We've got plenty of time. This is the pivot cast. So we pivot with what life throws at us, right? And now we're going to learn how to organize a little bit. So those of you who are watching, if you have any questions on the topic, feel free to put them in the comments. We'll see them as we go live. We can answer them. And if you're watching the replay, you can always post your question and we'll answer you afterwards. This interview will also be posted across all socials once we post: LinkedIn, IG, Facebook, and YouTube. So why are we here? So, Cathy, we connected through Facebook just about a month or so ago, and we're in some similar groups together. We actually both know people in Hong Kong, and we got on a Zoom call and just found out we had so much in common. So, I'd love to have you share your journey with everyone who doesn't know you so we can get a little bit more of your background and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Yes, we share some really cool people, as a matter of fact. So I'm sending them good vibes right now because it's crazy over there.
Yeah.
Um, so really brief. I probably have always actually been organized. I've always loved organization, but I've also actually dealt with anxiety, and I just didn't know what to call it until I was
Right.
diagnosed with it in 2001. And then pretty much, I did the regular thing. I didn't tell anyone because I was embarrassed and didn't know what to do. And then I did go to therapy, so that was wonderful. Everyone go to therapy. um,
It's great. I agree.
so I found tools and resources, and then I thought, okay, this is okay. So it was okay for a while, and then it wasn't okay. And
Right.
then I found myself requiring more help, and so I actually sought out finally in 2010 the help of a naturopathic. So I started to research more and realize there's a more naturalistic approach to your health. And so that started a whole nother world for me. 2010, I got my naturopathic doctor, and that was wonderful. Got a better handle on the anxiety. But then in 2012, I ended up having what would essentially right now, walk on wood, be my last episode, an anxiety episode. And I
Okay.
told myself in a whisper, but I said it out loud, even though I was crumbled up on the floor, totally spent after that episode. I will do everything I can to avoid this from happening ever again. And I guess the universe heard me. And from that day on, I pretty much just went on this whole holistic and just journey about how to get better, have my own better relationship with anxiety and stress, realizing that as a human, anxiety is part of our fight or flight system. So it's not going
Mhm.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Too many people say, "Oh, I don't have anxiety." I'm like, then you would be dead. Our anxiety
Yes.
system keeps us alive. It's working 24/7 as it should. But those of us who deal with excess anxiety seem to not know how to let it ebb and flow naturally, right? And so
Mhm.
I was able to figure that out and came to finally with the self-worth issues and everything else. And in 2019 started, or rather became a coach and decided that I have something to offer women like me to help them create their own relationship, healthy relationship with anxiety and stress.
I love it. And I think when you've gone through that dark night of the soul, if you will, and you've experienced it, you know what it feels like to be on the side of what's wrong with me and how do I get
Yeah,
out of this? And so that really speaks to a lot of people. And I love actually the language that you use because language is very powerful. And so saying, how do we create a healthy relationship with anxiety and stress is so crucial because so many people just want to banish it and be puppies and rainbows all the time. And it's as nice as that sounds, it won't last forever, right? And so, as you said, those emotions are important for us. I mean, anxiety is important because if we didn't feel it, maybe when we're in a situation that could be potentially dangerous, we won't leave, right?
exactly. Yeah,
So,
that our gut. I was just gonna say our gut. It
yeah,
really is in. It's the chemical, the actual hormone is in our gut. So when you say I felt it in my gut, that's your actual fear of fight or flight system telling you you're in danger or there's something off.
right.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
Oh,
interrupt.
that's all right. And I think, I mean, our gut has neurons. Science has proven that now. And it's about understanding when the signals, because sometimes our signals are faulty,
Yep.
right? Or we've had very poor experiences early on in life, which create a pattern that creates this signal to go off at inopportune moments or at moments when we don't really need it. And so I think this is really important for a lot of people to understand.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. No, you said it right on there. It's not something that's gonna go away, but you can do what you can to make it work on your behalf.
Yes, absolutely. Now, you mentioned you've always been a bit of an organizer. I must admit, I'm a planner as well. I used to I would relish getting new planners for school, and I would always kind of volunteer to organize the
Yep.
events with friends, parties and things like that. And what I realized was actually that was a way to control my own anxiety about not knowing what was going to happen and this like illusion of control. If I took on that role, then I would know what was happening. So it felt safer, but it was also very stressful at the same time. So it was kind of a catch 22. Can you talk a little bit about that when it comes to organizing and anxiety?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I am like you. I would also consider myself a recovering perfectionist to
Yeah.
go along with over organizing, OCD tendencies, right?
Hmm.
And so I, that's exactly what I was trying to do all my life is control what I could, right?
Right.
So when you're talking about, okay, so where do you find, like, where is that fine line? Well, play to your strengths, right?
Hmm.
And that's what we were doing. We were playing to what made us feel comfortable. But what that also did, unfortunately, is that it didn't give us the capacity to, or at least in my case, I shouldn't speak for you, but in my case, it didn't allow me to be creative in what
Mm,
maybe I could learn to otherwise go right. Like, in other words, if this doesn't work, what the heck am I going to do? Instead of
right.
being curious, then the anxiety would edge up. Instead of thinking, okay, how might I go around this in a different way? There was only one path. And so my
Mm,
anxiety was saying, oh no, this better work. Otherwise, you're screwed.
right.
So when you flip the switch and think of curiosity instead of there's only one way, that alone is going to change the whole scenario. And your curiosity is going to make your prefrontal cortex activate instead of the
Mm,
fight or flight system, which is why anxiety goes way high. So it's all about just the words that we're
yeah.
telling ourselves.
I'm so big on language, the language that we use with ourselves, whether it's a thought or something that we speak, it's very important to choose the right words and the way that we want to feel. One of my coaches just this morning, she was talking about how do you want to feel? How can you ask a question that leads you to feeling that rather than a question that leads you to feeling crappy about yourself? And so I love how you flip the script there to reframe or pivot, if you will, to allow this to be something that can be a strength. And just how do we manage it so that we can learn how to activate new pathways so that we don't let the potential shadow side of that strength hijack us.
Absolutely. And I did that through my certification as the 159th worldwide certified Konmari Organized consultant.
I love
So
it.
I basically learned about the Konmari method of organizing, fell in love with it. It totally just reined in my OCD as well as my organizing geekiness. But
Yeah.
what I realized when I went through the whole scenario, the whole tiding festival for myself, was that I realized very quickly that my anxiety had dipped
Mm,
naturally on its own. And that's because I was surrounded now by what was going to support me. I was
right.
able to control what I could, but what was there was all about supporting me and bringing me joy. So all the vibrations were higher. And
Mm,
so my anxiety had nowhere to go but down, regardless.
yes.
And so that method pretty much honed my pathway and said, okay, organizing is cool, but for the right reasons
Yeah.
and in the right way so that your body knows and your mind knows that you're safe, that you're loved, and that you are worthy, that everything around you has your back.
I love that. And I love that that you said the organization, you put it into a good way because everything that we do in life, it could be a very good thing, but anything in excess is bad, right? And that's the same whether it's a drug, like let's take aspirin for example. Aspirin has its function and its use, but if you take too many of them, it becomes toxic, right? And the same thing with organizing, right? It can start out as a very good tool to help you organize your day. There's time blocking, organizing your closet, as you said, things that bring you joy. So this makes me think of oh, what's the lady's name on Netflix? The little Japanese
That's
woman.
her. It's Marie Kondo.
Is that
That's
Yeah, Marie
that's the
Kondo.
same. Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
did that too. When I separated from my ex-husband, I moved into my own place. I Marie Kondoed everything. So I only brought things that really I was either gonna wear or use, or when I looked at it, I felt peaceful and zen. And I mean, I got so many compliments on that space when people would come in, and it was because there was no clutter. And I also found that my own emotions could be soothed based on my environment, and even the process of like culling that stuff was therapeutic. And then folding, even my underwear, putting it in the little thing that's organized, and then when you open the drawer it's like you know where to find everything, and you just feel really secure in that. And I think that really speaks to people who might suffer from anxiety, how this physical clutter can transfer over into the mental space. So by clearing this physical clutter, we can help the mental space.
Absolutely. And I don't know if we talked about that previously, but that is so awesome. We have so much in common. I mean, that's that's exactly what happened is that this tiding festival was just very therapeutic on so many
Mhm.
levels, and it becomes a habit. That's the whole point. It's
Yeah.
literally cognitive behavior therapy. And
Yeah.
then it basically means that you're KonMariing, as you say, everything in your life, which
Yeah.
means now your emotions are being KonMaried. You are basically bringing everything down to this most simplistic level, but that then takes your vibration so much higher. So Marie Kondo, bless her heart, took organizing, which is a very mundane just system in itself, and brought it up to the level of cognitive behavior therapy, like
Mm.
literally changing your vibration
Yeah.
by simply knowing what you want, what makes you happy, what brings you joy, and then taking that, using that to then support you. And it's amazing how your life can then, the anxiety literally just dissipates. I mean, it's still there and it's there when it's necessary, but your body understands why it's there and now it's not jacking it up
Right.
needlessly.
It's not this fire alarm response of,
Yeah.
oh, something's out of place and now everything else crumbles, right? Because you've got that support. And what you said earlier really struck a chord as well. You created and you were surrounded by an environment that supported your need for this. And this is
Yep.
something that we both talk about a lot in our circles, where you really, you can do a lot of inner work yourself. You can't force other people to change. You can't, change your whole company. But what you can do is put some fail safe systems in place to make sure that your needs are met. So if you recognize that you have a need for organization or for some orderliness, how do you set up your environment for that so that it becomes super easy, right? It's like this, I call it the SAS, your semi-automatic sprinkler system. And you don't have to do very much, right? But those needs are now getting met because you one, identify them, then you articulate them, and now you can start to actually get what you want. And I love that you're doing this through organizing, because the way you do one thing is all things. So physical to mental, emotional, spiritual, it translates across all of it.
Totally. And I think it's just, again, it's a testament to how our brain works. It just wants to go from A to B the most efficient way and the
Right.
most safe way. And so when you can calm your surroundings, you're calming your mind, and then your brain will be more efficient, more focused, and more productive ultimately.
Yes, I love it. So I know here we were talking about getting organized for life. So we're talking about this transfer of the skill. So how does this organization, and what would you say to people watching this live? What's something that they can start to look at and consider on organization so that they can get organized for life?
Sure. So, you probably don't have time to go through the whole like
Of
four-step
course.
system, but
Yeah.
more important is to understand that everything you possess gets to have gratitude extended to it.
Mm,
Gratitude is the essential. It is what makes up the Konmari method of organizing. So when we understand gratitude for its power,
mhm,
when we understand that what we have, everything around us, when we're grateful for it, and when we show it the respect it deserves, no matter what it is, inanimate or living, then that actually changes how we will experience the item or the
mm,
person, right? And when that gratitude grows, gratitude doesn't leave room for anxiety.
it's
Like the
beautiful.
brain doesn't work that way.
Mm,
So you either experience joy, or in this case, gratitude, or anxiety. They don't work together. They can't work together. They won't
yeah,
work together. So
we're not
when
friends.
you, right, when gratitude is always in your person, decisions become easier because it's coming from a place not of, again, not of anxiety or worry. It's coming from a place of what is best for dot dot dot. And so
Mm,
you're coming from a place of always gratitude. So when you have gratitude everywhere, that makes every decision easier. That makes your life easier because you're coming from a place of, literally, when you think about it, of thankfulness and what is the best outcome, not just for me, but for the other party or for the other item. That sounds really weird, but that's what it comes down to.
yeah. No, I love that. The what is best for dot dot dot. So you can insert, is that best for me? Is that best for my relationship, my job, this project, right? And then that comes from a place of service
Yeah.
rather than trying to take something, which doesn't feel good anyways, right? Like we don't
No,
like to take things,
no.
but allowing ourselves to receive, and then in reciprocity give back in service, I think that's the place that we want to be operating from.
Yeah, that's what it does. And in gratitude, in some respects, helps because then you're not feeling guilt. And that's the
Mm,
next process. So guilt also cannot live when joy or gratitude is being felt. Those two don't mix. So when you can express yourself with gratitude with any object and then let it go with gratitude, there is no guilt, which is
I
a
love it.
lot of people's problems. We have this
Yes.
attachment, whether it is intentional or not, it becomes a guilt factor. So
Mm.
when you don't have guilt anymore about something, it's a lot easier to let it go, which means you're going to let the guilt go as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big one, especially for people who feel like they want to be nice people, right?
Yep.
And they don't want to hurt anyone. And I'm just gonna shift because I can see this, the sun is trying to stream on my face. So I'm just going this way. um, and I like to make the distinction between being kind and being nice. Being nice is doing something for the other person, but it violates, like ahimsa for those yogis out there, it violates your own person or your own self. When you're being kind, it's a two-way street. So you make different decisions because it's that reciprocity. Because at the end of the day, if you're not kind to yourself, it will boomerang back and it will impact your relationships with others because resentment comes in, or guilt, or shame,
Yep.
all of these things which jack up anxiety.
That's exactly it. Yep. And, all I can say to that is that's exactly why I believe the KonMari method became so popular so quickly to the angst of a lot of professional and organizers that have been in the industry for 30 plus years.
Right.
Because again, it wasn't just because it was a popular cult, pop culture. It was because it was hitting something so completely primitive, our joy
Yeah.
factor. It was going from, okay, I don't want this guilt, so how do I get rid of it? Well, how about you show gratitude?
Mm.
So
And
that
allow
alone will
yourself
tell
to
you
experience joy. How many of
exactly.
us actually allow ourselves to experience this emotion?
Hmm.
When was the first time that you think you allowed yourself to experience joy? With
Well, like with regards to the using the method, or like in life, it's
just kind of
like,
in general, where it wouldn't be followed quickly by guilt or like, oh, this isn't gonna last, that waiting for the other shoe to drop. I don't deserve this because I didn't work hard enough. Do you feel like there was a specific, was this course something that helped you with that?
I think that right away when I was going through it, I have never considered myself someone who was, I was probably, I believe, more nice than I
Hmm.
was possibly grateful,
Okay.
right? And so, or kind. I've
Yeah.
always been nice, but the kindness means that there's a reciprocity there, and I didn't always want to accept, I guess, the
Hmm.
other side of it, right? And so after using the Konmari method, I realized how important it was to have kindness, meaning sometimes you're going to do for others and they don't do for you, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
But other times people will do for you and you don't have to reciprocate, meaning
Yes.
there is a give and take, and
Yeah.
it's okay to receive, just like you said, and it's okay to give.
That's
So
beautiful.
that
Yeah.
kindness is what finally broke through, and that's when I experienced what it was like to give and realize I don't care what the outcome is on the other end. Hopefully
Hmm.
they receive it for what it is, and that's it.
And this brings up a really great point too. It's not being attached to the outcome and not needing that reciprocity to happen right now. I think
Yep.
that's really big because I might do something for you and maybe then the reciprocity comes immediately. Maybe it's a hug, right? And I feel that reciprocity of the hug right away. Maybe it's a birthday present and my birthday 6 months later. Or maybe it's just simply, I was in a bad spot and you helped me, and then like years later I return that reciprocity. So I think this is something else to kind of keep in mind for people, is that this doesn't mean that it's like tit for tat. It's just
Mm-mm.
understanding. It's like that pay it forward, right? When you pay for the person's drink behind you, and it just makes you feel good, right? And you're grateful, and then when that happens to you, you don't even know who it came from. You don't have to know.
Yeah. I look
Yeah.
at it the best way that, I mean, karma is karma, right? And so when you're always in service with gratitude, it doesn't matter how much, because you're going to get it back tenfold, right? You don't
Yeah.
think you will necessarily, but it does happen. And so
Yes.
be grateful for when you get to give, but be grateful when you get to get, when you
Yeah.
actually receive. Too many
That's
times we're going to say no, but that's going to give you bad karma. You want the good karma. So give the good karma, but also be willing to receive it. And sometimes that's what actually trips people up.
Hmm.
So receive it as well as give.
And now that sounds it sounds like, okay, just receive, but some people really do have some things they need to soothe around this, the resistance, right, that they need to face. So that's a whole nother topic that we can get into. But it's this just a reminder that allowing yourself this space to give and receive with grace. And have compassion for yourself as you go through this process. Because I'm sure many of your clients, they're kind of frustrated in the beginning, or maybe they're a bit hard on themselves, right? So, for those that might be struggling with that, what would you say is just something very simple they could start to do today to help?
So I would definitely let them know that I think honestly what I said previously is the biggest portion of any part of what I coach is simply, if you can take away the guilt, meaning that you want to show gratitude at every point that you can in your life for yourself and to others,
Hmm.
because again, graciousness will bring you joy. It will bring all the warm fuzzy feelings, right?
Yeah.
But it will also keep your mind open, meaning it will stay curious. And that's what we want to bring anxiety down. When when you're able to be gracious, then what you're telling your brain is that you're safe. And that's
Mm,
the most important thing for your brain, keep you
yes.
alive. So if you're telling your brain, I am safe, it will stay curious and it will look for all creative ways to make something happen to your betterment, not to your detriment.
I love that. And I think also being curious allows you to be safe to experience all the emotions, right? and
Yeah.
and the more we can create safety around experiencing all of the emotions, which may be more difficult for some than others based on your personal experiences,
Yeah.
then we can start to move into that space of curiosity even more quickly. But I mean, curiosity is the antidote to everything. I mean, think about when your partner does something and you're really upset at them. Instead of saying like, why did you do that, and being really angry about it, get curious about it and think about if you were in their position, right? And really try to understand it from that level, rather than this like pointing a finger and blaming stance, right? Because at the end of the day, we are all just these little children and adult bodies like trying to connect with each other, but then we've got all these layers of shit and programming that get in the way of that. And and that's why a lot of us seek out these experiences like Burning Man, or plant medicine, or just retreats where we can have that connection. But what we need to do is cultivate that connection also daily, so that we don't need the other extreme. We don't need to pendulum swing back and forth and then go back into the matrix and plug in and go, okay, now I'm going to do my thing at JP Morgan or whatever. No offense,
Yeah.
JP Morgan, but
Yeah.
it's just it's the corporate space. So understanding how you can cultivate this in day-to-day life through organization is so powerful.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Like, I don't think I could have said that better.
Well, thank you. Um, all right, one last question before we finish for today. And I feel like this is a topic we could deep dive into, and we'll probably have multiple conversations on it. But how does being disorganized affect the body, mind, and spirit? And then, as a segue, when we have this affecting us, what impact does it have with regards to clarity when we want to make a change in our life?
So I give this stat every single time, and I'll be as quick as I can.
Okay.
On average, in North America, or at least in the US for sure, we spend 55 minutes of our day looking for something.
Wow.
What that adds up to is 2 week vacation in a year. So let that sink in,
Holy
everyone.
moly.
You've
Just to look for
wasted
stuff.
2 weeks of vacation looking for something, and it doesn't matter what it is, who it is. What that does to your anxiety, that basically you're shooting up your cortisol, I'm sorry, your adrenaline needlessly every day for whatever reason, because for whatever reason something got lost. I'm not even going to go into how many ways you do that. What that does to your brain is tell you, I'm not safe, I'm not safe, I'm not safe. So what do you think is going to happen to your anxiety? Yeah, it's going to jack up. So same happens once you've now gotten the fight flight system to engage. Unfortunately, it doesn't care that you lost your keys. It doesn't care that you're trying to write a paper. Your focus is gone.
Yeah.
And when you try to get it back, you've lost 50% productivity through a book. I mean, I know that stat because I read Brandon Richard's High Performance Habits. And
Mm,
once you've been distracted and you try
yeah.
to come back to what you were focusing on,
You
you've now
lose.
lost 50% of that productivity.
Wow. That's insane. 2 weeks. I mean, I can definitely tell you I've been searching for things and I've like had the keys in my hand and been like, where are my keys? And then I'm like, oh, 10 minutes later, they're in my hand. Right. Or sometimes you absentmindedly put it in the fridge or something like that. I can tell you when I did the Marie Kondo to my flat, I knew where everything was. It was like I also had like color coding. It was like winter to summer, like work to play. Like I could just go in and find my thing. So getting ready in the morning was such a breeze. And then it slowly started to change. Like once I moved in with my partner, and then we had two different helpers helping do the organizing. One of them didn't really understand the full process. So then like stuff would get into the wrong area and I couldn't find it. And I was like, oh my God, I could really feel the difference. And so we had to like sit down and kind of go over in my, because for me, of course, it makes sense in my mind. But that doesn't mean it makes sense in somebody else's mind. The way that they might organize is completely different. They
Yeah,
might, and there was another really good book. You touched on a book, Essentialism by Greg McKeown.
I love that book.
Such a
Oh my
good book.
gosh.
And he uses the analogy of the clothes, like when you're giving your time away to everyone and when you're distracted, it's like having your closet and then you come to my house and put your clothes in there and then somebody else, and then you're spending like 30 minutes just trying to find your damn t-shirt because everybody else is pulling on you. But if you have that system and organization in place plus boundaries around it, then that's when you can really get the things that you want done. So this ties in so perfectly to that. I love it.
That was awesome.
It's all about weaving these pieces together, right? Like having that tapestry of all the things in your life that you learn will mean something different to you at different points. So how do we synthesize it? How do we make it mean something for you? Because like the words that I'm saying right now, Cathy, you're receiving them differently. Whoever's watching this live or later, they're going to have a completely different interpretation. If we watch this in 6 months from now, we'll probably also think completely differently compared to the memory of this live. So it's just a reminder that all these things that you're getting is just information. It's data. You know, be your own scientist and figure out through the scientific method what works for you and what doesn't, and then you put those things on the shelf and understand it's okay to change. Yeah, beautiful. Oh, I can't hear you now all of a sudden. Maybe the headphones. Yeah. No. Oh, but now you're on mute.
Okay, there you go. Sorry,
There we
I'm
go.
so sorry. I'm so
That's
mortified.
okay.
I was
Hi, cute gremlins. They're just saying hi. All right. So Cathy, this was fantastic. Where can people find you if there are some women who are watching or men, whoever wants to get some organization in their life and really work through some of their anxiety items, concerns, how can they find you? Where's the best place to find what you do?
Sure. I'm mostly living on Facebook, so you
Mhm.
can look me up at Cathy Perez, and that's the easiest way to find me. I also have a Facebook group, if anyone's, but again, you can just find me on Facebook and
Perfect.
become my
So
friend. That's the way to go it.
yeah,
So thank
absolutely.
you.
So this video is going to be posted into Facebook. It's also into the My Jedi group. So for those of you watching, Cathy's tagged. You can go and follow her, add her on Facebook and have a connection request. And then there will also be some links where you guys can connect with her if you're watching on a different platform. All right, amazing. Well, Cathy, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation today, as always. And we would really like to have you back on again to kind of dive a bit deeper. I think this is a really important topic, especially as we integrate the different versions of ourselves and have a very holistic view on what we do. For all of the people watching, I would love for you guys to comment on the video with your biggest takeaway so that we can see what resonated most. If you have any questions, just tag Cathy or me. We'll make sure that you get them answered and that you get Cathy's contact information. So remember, real pivoters are human beings just like me and you. And all it takes is the choice to do something different because it is a choice. So go out and choose something that's going to make you sparkle today and keep on keeping on. Thank you, Cathy.